These students are rehearsing for the greatest day in their country's history, its creation. East Timor's won independence after 400 years of Portuguese rule, followed by 24 years of oppressive Indonesian occupation. Independence has prompted these East Timorese expatriates to return home, mostly from West Timor in Indonesia. Some of them were supporters of Indonesia who fled 3 years ago, when United Nations peacekeepers arrived to end their clashes with separatists. Now they've returned and want peace.
I'm hoping that East Timor will now be peaceful, and that we won't have any more war.
The new country is currently peaceful, but has to be prepared. United Nations advisors will remain for a while because the East Timorese are adapting to new conditions, especially concerning their security.
I'm no expert on this, but I think they have lived with violence for 400 or more years, so I guess it's hard to get away from it. It's something that will take time.
The assembly elected last year will become a fully fledged parliament, taking over from the Transitional UN administration. It's acknowledged that many problems lie ahead, but says the country has great potential and the people great determination. Political differences have already arisen, which augurs well if East Timor is to become a viable multi-party democracy. But a few grievances and personal disputes are also bubbling up to the surface, and they could cause problems for the new leaders. Some former guerrillas feel they're not being suitably rewarded for their years of struggle. Such complaints are just one more difficulty faced by their former chief, now president-elect, Xanana Gusmao. But he's confident of success.
I know that I can count on these people. That these people, if they are well informed about the process, about the development of the process, they can understand, they can participate more and more, and I see that in 10 to 15 years we can say, yes, we do something, we did something.
The first thing the government has to deal with is the economy, which at the moment is boosted by the presence of high-spending foreigners working for UN and other aid or advisory organisations. But the UN bubble will burst, or at least deflate, and the East Timorese will increasingly have to survive on their own, currently meagre resources. The transitional period was a temporary blessing for one of the 20 poorest countries in the world. The World Bank is working closely with the government, attracting foreign aid and investment in an attempt to transform the economy.
The country will go through a difficult period in the 3 years after independence, in part because the downsizing of the international operation will cause a shock to the urban economy. The rural economy, we estimate, will continue growing, but urban employment will take a hit. So important there that the reconstruction programs continue to soak up some of those jobs, and also that programs are provided in vocational training, skills training, to allow workers to adjust and find jobs in other parts of the economy.
But the economy has a long way to go. When East Timor voted for independence, pro-Jakarta militiamen, backed by some Indonesian soldiers, murdered hundreds of people and destroyed many properties before fleeing the country. As the economy improves, health and education should too. The government's making them priorities, allocating far more money to social services than defence. But for the foreseeable future, many East Timorese will have to rely on people like Dr. Dan Murphy. He's an American who for the past 4 years has run a hospital ward and a clinic in the capital Dili. Dr. Dan, as he's known, treats a seemingly endless catalogue of ailments.
Number one is TB, Malaria is also very common. Then maternal problems with pregnancy, labor, and delivery. Now we're starting to see an increase in HIV. We don't know really how much, but we know it's getting more and more, and we haven't really set up good programs to deal with that yet. Then we have all of the diseases of poor countries, which are mostly infectious diseases, parasites, dengue fever, gastro-enteritis, pneumonia, infectious diseases, and that's because of poverty and poor water supplies, poor housing, poor nutrition, and so people's defense is not good, and all these diseases spread.
Education for children in particular doesn't just mean teaching academic subjects, but also the basics of a healthy lifestyle, like good hygiene. This school at Aileu, not far from Dili, was damaged in the rioting of 1999, but it didn't provide particularly good facilities in the first place. Children are taught simple routines they can follow to help prevent illness. Aid organisations like World Vision International are also helping in a more practical way by providing schools with toilets. With widespread illiteracy, hardly any industry, and few readily available resources, almost half the East Timorese live on what they can grow or catch. But again, foreign advisors are helping. While much of the country is mountainous with poor soil, new varieties of sustainable crops and livestock are being introduced. Strong climate fluctuations here also hinder agriculture, but even if the level of production doesn't provide surpluses for export, it should boost domestic food supplies. The one success story in agriculture, albeit still on a limited scale, is coffee of very high quality. The Timor Coffee Co-operative produces the only significant foreign currency earner, and it has the potential to grow.
Well, the problem is that Timor is a very small coffee producer. If you compare to the world production, I think it's roughly 0.1% of the world production. And as I told you, it would be difficult to increase really the quantity of coffee. But the thing is that if we can sell to the niche market, we will always get much better prices for these coffee farmers. And that's exactly the object of this project.
The biggest project regarding the economy is not connected to agriculture, but to oil and gas. At the moment, such fuels are precious commodities in East Timor, in the sense that many people can't afford them. But there are huge oil and gas fields under the Timor Sea, between the island and Australia. So one of the first acts of the new government will be to sign an offshore exploitation deal with the Australians that should raise billions of dollars for East Timor in the next few decades. For all its current problems, the future looks good.
Well, East Timor has a great basis for development after independence. It's made one of the fastest recoveries ever seen in a post-conflict country, but it still has many challenges ahead. Over 40% of the population are under the poverty line, and there are major deficits in infrastructure and health and education that need to be made up. East Timor's fortunate in that it does have oil and gas revenues coming on stream in larger volumes from mid-decade, which will help to provide an exit strategy from dependence on external aid.
The hope for oil and gas boom could be of enormous benefit in alleviating East Timor's problems. But it's also a tempting opportunity for unscrupulous people to exploit. Much of the responsibility for ensuring the income is used wisely rests with President-elect Gusmao.
It is very important to relieve them in their daily difficulties. And another one is how to motivate for investment, just to open more opportunities of more jobs for our youth.
More than 4 centuries of oppression and bloodshed have now hopefully ended for the people of East Timor. But the country's leaders are realistic as well as optimistic.
If I can do in these 5 years I can do 49% of all that I promised to my people, I will be very happy.
The newest country in the world, the first of the millennium, is also one of the poorest. But life for most East Timorese has always been tough. Now they at least have the chance to share a peaceful and more prosperous future.